Hello, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Mack.
And welcome to iCube After Hours. Are you clocked out?
Because we sure are.
So join us as we dive into what it is we do here at iCube. Mack, what is it we do at iCube?
Well, Amanda, not many people really know, and that's why we have this podcast. We want to shine light on what our department does and how we do it.
Join us as we sit down with our fellow innovators and iCube team members. What time is it, Mack?
It's 4:31.
Well, we better get started then. Today we have Waverly Hart, VR Manager of Development for iCube.
We're excited to have you here, Waverly.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for being on this today. Really appreciate it. You get to work with me a lot. You lucky dog. So tell us how you got started at iCube.
All right, so I got started at iCube as a student in college. I was going down the art path, so I had a whole bunch of art classes, and one of my teachers was like, hey, there's this place in the library that does 3D art. And I was like, that's awesome. I love the sound of that. And so I kind of came over here and I was like, hey, like, can I do anything? Can I learn anything? All that stuff. And then Stephanie, who was the manager before me, was like, yeah, sure. We have like this whole bunch of group of people who also want to learn 3D modeling and stuff like that. And then she kind of like went through how to do some basic stuff on the computer using Maya, Autodesk Maya, which is a 3D modeling software. And then she was like, hey, this is kind of like a little bit of a competitive position. We only got room for like 3 people, and there was like a group of, how many people were there? I think there were like 10.
I don't remember.
I remember there were quite a few. That was
Yeah.
Stephanie Smithers, right?
Yes, Stephanie Smithers. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a lot of fun doing
Yes,
that.
I had a lot of fun. And then, so it was based on how we did on the little test, which she gave off. She gave a list of a whole bunch of stuff that she wanted us to model. And I did the Xbox controller. Not a controller. Console, sorry.
I was going to hold you to it. So I'm glad you fixed it.
Yes. So I modeled the Xbox console. And then the other requirement to just getting the position was what hours we could work. And I managed to do both. So I could be there at the correct times, and I did well enough on my modeling after having someone demonstrate how to model for an hour. So yeah, and then so I kind of just got started with that internship. Well, actually, no, at the very, very beginning, there was that month-long, completely volunteer situation where I created the blacksmithing lodge.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's a
remember.
deep cut.
That was a really long time ago. But yes, so I made the blacksmithing lodge, and I look back at it now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so scary. But at the time, I thought, this is awesome. This
Like,
is
it was
so
your
cool.
first.
It was my first project.
Mm-hmm.
It was my first time modeling. Well, not first time modeling, but first time modeling something large scale. First time ever texturing anything. First time just really getting into using, Autodesk Maya and all that stuff. And then next semester, I had a class. I had an internship class, and I chose iCube to be where I interned.
As should everyone.
Yeah. And I had that class twice, actually, in my last 2 semesters when I was taking 21 and 22 hours.
Yeah. What was your major at that time?
My major was web design. So I had to take a whole bunch of art classes, but I had to take a whole bunch of web design classes as well. And that was at the point where they were shutting down the web design
It was a fateful day, yes. They,
degree.
they
Because
kind of whittled it down really slowly.
yeah,
until it
so
didn't
a lot
exist.
of the required classes didn't exist anymore, but I still had to have something that was equivalent.
Right.
So a high level class like internship would have been the equivalent.
You had taken clay classes.
Yes. So when I first started college, I majored in sculpting because I loved sculpting. I had fallen into sculpting all the way back in high school when, those like required art classes you have to take.
Sure.
And so I did what? Oh my gosh, I don't even remember what the class was, but it was like mixed media or something like that, art. And we did a whole bunch of things, 2D, 3D. We carved rocks. We did a whole bunch of pottery. We did some fabric stuff. We did a whole bunch of stuff. And I loved the sculpting, the clay part. And then so I took every single elective after that was some sort of sculpting or clay or pottery.
Do you like
art class.
clay sculpting more than 3D like art sculpting on computers?
I like 3D sculpting better.
Ooh.
Because clay sculpting, it was extremely difficult to get delicate things to work because they would explode in the kiln or they would break. And
Happens
so you
in VR too, so.
well, that doesn't happen,
Probably a lot less messy too.
It is a lot less messy. I don't have to spend, like 10 minutes scraping clay off my hands
Right.
after every time, making sure I got it all off because otherwise I'll be shedding clay all day long, which I'm sure.
Is there a parallel there? Is that sort of what got you interested in VR?
Yes, there was because there's no like 3D modeling or animation or any sort of classes here. And so when I was like, hey, maybe I'll try out this, 3D modeling thing. I'll do the volunteer and maybe it'll be really similar to sculpting, which I really, really enjoy. And there was sculpting classes, but,
Well, we're glad you did. So what does it look like when you start a VR project? What's the process look like?
So usually the client comes to Amanda and she kind of starts off with this like vague idea. And then she's like, hey, like, is this at all feasible? And I go, yes or no. And then, so she's like, she goes back to the client. She's like, yes, this is feasible. Or she comes up with a different idea. And then she comes back to me and she's like, blah, 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 over again until we have something that like works. And then at that point, we start doing pre-development, which is like, she starts the wireframe and we collaborate on that like a lot. Where you're like putting out all these crazy ideas and I'm like frantically testing them in the background, like trying to figure out if they work.
And you're always so honest, for better or for worse. Very honest.
If we can't do it,
it's perfect.
We can't do it. But yes, and then so that's kind of how it starts. And we go through a process where I try stuff out and I sort of create like concept art, like using prefabs, like already created assets and stuff like that are generally never actually going to be in the final product, sorry. But they're just there as placeholders, just to say, hey, blah, 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 this is what it's going to look like and all this stuff. And so as soon as the wireframe is done, and like all the concept art and all that stuff is done, we send it back to the clients, I believe.
Yeah, we try to give them a vague idea of what it's going to be, even though it's so hard to like conceive what a
Yeah.
full VR project's gonna be, but just to make sure we're headed in the right direction. So
Yeah,
that they don't
yeah.
come back at the very end. We wanted all of this blue, and you made it purple. So
Yeah. And like, yeah. So we kind of send that off to them, and well, Amanda sends that off to them, and then yeah, we do like a whole bunch of things after that. We do like the more finer details, like the story, the wireframe is all big picture. You know, this is what it's gonna look like. Basically, this is what the big picture of the actual project is gonna be. And then after that, it's been approved and we have all that stuff. We have to go back in and be like, hey, here's how this is gonna work. Like,
yeah, how do you navigate all that? Like having like knowing what needs to be done, but also like not knowing everything that needs to be done because there's always problems. How do you organize and manage all that?
You basically you kind of just that's the difficult part. That's the like because you never really know, you know. There have been plenty of times where halfway through development, I come into your office and I'm like, this doesn't work anymore. I don't know what to do. And so we need to brainstorm some sort of fix. But basically, you just kind of try and like you have like a list of the basic stuff that you absolutely know needs to be in there. And so you go through that list and then you kind of try and work through it in your head, basically. Work through the project in your head, kind of run through entirely how it will be. And then you like ask yourself like questions like, I'm trying to think of one that's relatively recent, like the drop off.
So, like, for example, the timing of the capsules coming towards you, because we wanted it to be on beat.
Mm-hmm.
But then we were like, well, it can't be on beat, but we can make a pathway.
Yeah, that was...
Always, like, pivoting.
Yeah. But going through the process of, like, trying to figure out, hey, how is the player even going to get into, you know, the actual, like, meat of the simulation or the game, and then like how does the game end, like what are the triggers that cause end, you know, what are the triggers that cause a good ending or a bad ending, or is there even going to be anything like that at all? And that's part of the pre-development, but also part of pre-development, of course, is kind of determining what platform we're going to be building for. So mobile, computer-based, like all these things. And then once you have the platform, you can be able to decide whether or not something will even be feasible. Because a lot of things aren't actually feasible on mobile because of processing power and stuff like that.
And it's constantly changing.
Yes.
The
technology.
In the middle of projects.
Oh yeah. I've had at least, I don't know, what's the longest project? The Impairment Arcade?
Technically, but I always think diabetes is what took us the longest time to do from beginning to end. I don't know why. Would you say Impairment Arcade was longer? Because we kind of like picked it up and put it down. Picked it up and put it down. So
yeah, that's
but, like,
true.
Beginning to end. Maybe it's Impairment Arcade.
I think it is Impairment Arcade
Yeah.
because we got almost all the way done, and then we had to put it back down, and
Yes.
technology changed.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we put it down for how long? For like a year?
I mean, we probably put it down for 5 minutes, and it changed so fast that we needed to open it back up and redo the whole thing. But
yeah,
it's interesting process.
So if you were at home and you don't know what goes into making a VR game or a mobile application, what software stack do you usually run for these?
So I usually do Maya, Autodesk Maya for like modeling and texturing and animation and rigging and all those things. And then I use Adobe's Substance Designer and Painter for actually painting textures on. And then I also use Unity for the main project. And then, so that would be where you would tie everything together, VFX, shaders, making sure that everything works, programming, visuals, lighting, all that stuff. And then after that, depending upon the platform, like the end platform, you can go straight from Unity to end project. But if it's mobile, sometimes you have to go to like Xcode or Android Studio. So
that's all sort of the launch phase.
Yes.
Okay. So you said you
That's
had pre-production and the launch phase. What happens in between in the development phase? Is there?
Yeah.
I guess there's different stages, like the alpha stage.
There's pre-development, and that's kind of like 2 stages. That's like the wireframe stage, and then that's the detail, adding more and more stuff to it, and then there's development, and then after that there's alpha beta testing and client changes. Like at that point we would bring our project to a client and we'd be like, hey, is there anything that doesn't look okay that we need to change? And they'll be like, blah, blah,
Perfect.
blah.
Every single time.
No changes, no notes.
No changes. But yes. And then there's the post-testing phase where we implement any changes that alpha beta testers have noticed and all these things. And then after that, there is the post-development stage where we go through like creating all the marketing materials and websites and all that stuff. And then we launch. And then after that is maintenance. So
that's our favorite, right?
Yeah.
I know from the projects that I've worked on, maintenance is usually the one that takes the most effort and the most time.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand that the actual construction of a project can be 10% of it, but it can go on for 10 years after that, where you're keeping up with technology changes and different features.
Yeah.
Is that similar with you?
Oh yeah. There's development stage is the longest stage, other than possibly the wireframe stage, like the very, very initial pre development. And that's only depending upon just how many times we go over the wireframe and stuff like that. But development is the longest, or second longest, sorry. And then maintenance is the longest, because that could be anywhere from like, I don't know, a year to 10 years,
Infinity.
20 years, however long.
And a lot of these projects have been kind of like one-offs. Like, hey,
Yes.
have this happen, and then we're like, great, happy, end with like, we're done. We're gonna use it forever. And then maybe they like have a new addition or a new idea. They're like, could you tweak this one little thing? And what I like to say is it's like taking a game off the shelf, like a video game out of the box at GameStop, opening it up and wanting to change it.
Right.
And it's just so hard and difficult, especially because we are a development team of you and some students right now. So it's not it's not like a big production studio like Call of Duty can just put out updates whenever.
Well, yes. And even like a big production studio would have, their separate teams. They would have pre-development team, development team, post-development team, and then an entirely separate maintenance team.
Right.
And that would be a maintenance team for each and every single game or simulation that they release.
And usually the art and development wouldn't be the same person.
Yeah.
So it's very unique what you're doing, but it's been working.
Yeah.
So.
Well.
So that sort of ties into what I was thinking about with, headsets expiring, and so we produce something for, the Oculus DK1, the development kit, and then, now you have the Quest 2 out, maybe even
Quest
something.
3.
Oh my goodness. It's hard,
Yes.
so hard to keep up with.
It's gonna release in the fall.
Oh,
so
goodness.
yeah.
So what was the early stage of VR headsets like? I remember we were pretty early.
Yes. So the iCube, I think, was a little bit earlier because I came in a little bit after. You guys, iCube, we had started on VR. So the earliest headsets I have ever personally dealt with was the Oculus Dev Kit 2s.
Okay.
And those were basically a really, really heavy, clunky headset, and that's it. They didn't have tracking. They didn't have like all the special things that we have, all the technology that we have now to make it so that when you put the headset on, you didn't get horrifically motion sick, which is, like the little gap for your nose. And then all of our knowledge now about frame rates, all of our knowledge about...
like you moving in VR, but
you moving in VR,
Mm-hmm.
and then well, not moving in VR, but actually moving in real life. Like that was probably the biggest cause of motion sickness in people who put the headset on, because the very, very first headsets, the DevKit ones, it was a stationary thing. When you moved your head, the view in the headset didn't also change because there was no tracking.
I would get sick just like
remember.
you put it on and it would lag just a little and you're like...
So you had, so when you were wearing them, you had to sit, and you had to sit completely still. You couldn't really look around.
You could, but slowly.
Well, slowly, because you couldn't like do fast, because our brains are expecting the perspective to change,
Right,
and when
right.
it doesn't,
Yeah,
So that compared to now is just crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's
night
just
and
like
day.
a 1-to-1 basically.
Yeah.
I assume it's always going to get better.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
it's like a 1 to 0.925 or something, but close.
Yeah, it's gonna get. I mean, with the with the controller tracking in the Meta Quest Pro, and then like all the tracking, the eye tracking that Apple is now putting into their Vision Pro, and like all these things, facial tracking, like so that avatars and stuff like that can have your expressions. All these things they're just.
So you saw
very...
WWDC, huh? Were you impressed? Are you excited?
Yes, I'm super excited. The price is a little scary, but
I'm scared of all of it, honestly.
Was it $3K? Is that what they're asking for it?
$35.
So we'll get one of those in soon.
Yeah. But I mean, at the beginning of, when the HoloLens came out, it was extremely pricey.
Yeah. I mean, 35 is technically less than a dev kit. We've got 6 of those.
Right.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is true. We'll have to develop something for it.
Yeah. Anybody have a project out there?
Is it available for Unity yet, or
not yet? Because they haven't started publishing. I mean, they released it like last week.
Right. Just a few days ago, really.
Just as a hey.
Yeah.
We're actually doing this last week, but yes, and they are going to actually release the headsets on spring 2024.
Okay, we've got
I
time.
think it's after
Starting our piggy bank savings.
Yeah.
after the Quest 3 is released, which is in fall 2023, so fall of this year. Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Just to date the podcast, because I think that'd be fun. What is the most recent headset we have? What is the most current that we have?
Like, we have the Quest 2 as
Quest
the
2.
yeah,
Okay.
but
I feel like we'll watch this in 5 years and be like, whoa.
well, but technically the Meta Quest Pro is out, but we haven't gotten that one yet.
Right. So
Yeah.
we are using the Quest 2. So what are you most excited about in like the future of VR?
So I'm really excited about Apple's Vision Pro has a dial on their headset, where you can dial in the immersion. And at this very center point of just where your eyes are, just the very center point, like right here, it will always be, I believe, it'll always be fully immersive. So you'll always be able to see at least something, but it fades around the edges of your view. So you can see in and out. And so you can like see out of the corner of your eye. Like if someone's walking up to you in VR, or if you're going to run into a table, which would be really helpful, because that happens a lot.
How?
Yeah, how does it? Is it cameras on the outside?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's cameras on the outside. That first started, I believe, on Oculus's MetaQuest Pro.
Mm-hmm.
No, because it wouldn't have started on the MetaQuest Pro because there's cameras on the outside of the Quest 2. So yeah, so it started on the Quest 2, and that was released some years ago. I don't remember the exact number. But those are only black and white. However, the cameras on the MetaQuest Pro and Apple's Vision Pro are in color. So you can see perfectly.
It's going to be wild.
It is.
It's a little terrifying.
It is going to be very wild.
Do you think Apple has a seat at the table now?
I don't know. They're promising a lot of stuff, but their headset isn't out yet.
Didn't they promise a lot with AR too a while ago? Did that work?
It was
I
pretty.
don't really remember.
It was some of the best when it came out for the phone.
It was. It was. But then
they don't have a lot of incentive to.
Yeah, they didn't really continue. It was really, really good at the very beginning. It was awesome. It was like the Apple phone has all the AR. You can only use AR with an Apple phone.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, Google and all that stuff caught up real quick. Mm-hmm. And then they continued development, and Apple sort of did, but not really,
I still just don't like augmented reality as much as I like fully virtual in it reality. So I don't know how much I'm going to like this, like, half immersed.
Well, I like the fact that what people are doing nowadays is they're taking elements of your environment and they're adding it in to the game.
That'll be fun to program for.
Oh yeah.
It is wild, like adaptive ER sort of.
Yeah. It's mixed reality,
Yeah.
Basically.
To its truest sense.
Yeah. Because we're not only doing things where we're adapting your environment into the virtual reality that you're seeing, but we're also adding virtual reality into your environment as well, which is just fascinating, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
So is that what you're working on currently, just ahead of the curve, figuring it all out now?
No, but it'd be a lot of fun.
So what are you doing right now?
Right now, I am adapting our Impairment Arcade simulation for a research project.
Right, and the Impairment Arcade, just for you folks at home, we do a lot of work with traffic safety.
Yes, I have been working on a traffic safety project probably this entire time working at iCube.
Yeah.
We do so many traffic safety projects, and I'm always working on different ones, just continuously.
Yeah, we've got like driving simulators, a couple of those.
Yeah.
And that a couple of car seats. You've made a lot of car seats.
We have 5 car seats.
Okay.
Like projects.
Like experiences, right?
Yeah.
So how many car seats total would you say?
How many car seats have I made?
Yes.
I've only made 5.
Oh.
So yeah, we keep reusing them.
Okay.
Because
just the main 5 types.
Yeah, because they're generic enough that we
just need the pieces.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So so then the Impairment Arcade is different.
Yes. So the Impairment Arcade is it's like a metaphor for driving impaired. So what you do when you first play the game is you select what kind of arcade game you want to play, and we have Monster Mash, Skee Ball, and basketball. So all those arcade games. And then you play the first round unimpaired, and then you're put into the second round where the impairment starts, and it kind of gets progressively worse over time until it becomes almost impossible to actually play at all because, you know, depending on the impairment, you can't see anything, or everything is duplicated and you can't tell which one is real, or you're seing little monsters out of the corners of your eyes.
And that's what we're doing
Is that
research
abnormal?
on.
I don't know, Mack.
But that research, we're going to be looking at like what's the frustration point when you're playing these games, because you will be playing it impaired basically. So it's like how much are people willing to put up with basically to get a high score on this game, and we're doing that with the College of Business. So that should be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be very fun.
That's an exciting project. Do you have more down the pipeline of exciting things you're looking forward to?
Project wise,
or not project wise?
Well, I'm also still working on city driving, and then some changes to the drop off. So I'm working on those too as well. Well, I'm working on the research one because we need that one like right now. But the impairment arcade, city driving, and the drop off are going to be like right afterwards.
And you've been doing like updates to a
Oh,
lot of our projects lately.
Yeah, we have 85 projects.
85?
We have 85
I
projects.
don't think that can be true.
That's a big number, Waverly.
We've been doing
That's a
this
bold
for like
claim.
7, 8 years. How many years have we been doing this?
Oh, I've been doing this for 8. So
Okay.
you guys have been doing this for longer. Because
Just
there's like
8.5, basically.
6 projects that before updating them, I've never worked
Wait,
on.
you're telling me that you didn't do 6 of our 80 plus projects?
Wow.
I thought you were over here working hard.
Yeah, I thought you were a superstar.
Well, I mean, I've done little bits here and there, you know.
Little
But-
bits.
Yeah.
So many.
That's a lot of projects,
So many
Waverly.
projects.
Yeah.
I think you might wear the belt as far as how many, like the championship belt of who's got the most projects in the office. Maybe Kevin.
No.
Maybe.
Well, Amanda's worked on all 85.
Oh yeah.
It
So
just doesn't feel like I've worked on that many. Like I don't feel like I've seen that many projects. But you'll have to get me the list.
Do you want to see the sheet?
I will eventually. Yes.
Of everything?
I do want to see it because
I mean,
that's so much.
we had 100 and something, but a lot of those projects were like test projects, you know, where we would prototype out whether something would work or not.
Oh, those count. Still build them.
Now that you say, I mean, I guess I could see
Yeah.
a lot of
There's-
smaller projects. That's
There's
crazy.
85.
I need a list. I need a list. A screenshot from each. We'll make
Yeah.
a really cool mural or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would.
We definitely do. But yeah.
So where do you want VR to go? Away because you're tired. I'm just kidding. That's a lot of projects.
I think it would be awesome if we could start to include our environment into all the projects we make. I know it'd be really, really difficult, and I know programmatically it would not be fun. It would be very frustrating, but I just think that it would be really cool.
I mean, we do say when we're working with our clients that, like, you know, you're only limited by your imagination.
Yeah.
Like, VR can do anything, but that's just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
It really can almost do everything. Like,
Well,
there's more everything it can do.
yeah,
coming
and
up.
okay, so you know what else I think would be cool is if we started actually, rather than using controllers, we started doing, you know, finger-specific controls as well.
Haptic gloves, eh?
No,
that
not
what
even
they're
haptic gloves.
What
'Cause-
are they?
Well, the Quest 2, you can turn on the setting where you use your hands instead of controllers. I think if we had like, I mean, we'd have to have a list of what each motion does, but if we started on that, I think that would be really fun. So it's kind of like we would be regressing, you know? We started with the dev kit 2, where there's no controllers, no sensors, no nothing. And now Quest 2 with no controllers.
The de-evolution of VR.
Yeah. Except it's not, but yeah. Anyways, go.
Oh, sorry. We'll cut that bit out. So 85 projects. If you had to pick one that was your favorite, what do you think it would be? Without offending Amanda.
Oh my gosh. One that was my favorite. I really, really enjoyed the drop-off.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I mean, by the end of it, I hated the music. I'm just going to let everyone know.
Heard it
by the end of it, I hated it.
How many songs were in that game?
There was one song.
That you listened to endlessly on repeat?
I listened to it endlessly on repeat.
Could you hum us a few bars? No, I'm just kidding.
Because a lot of it was matching everything to the beat, which meant I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't mute it, anything like that. So, yes. But I think it was the funnest game.
So tell us about the drop-off for people who don't know, haven't seen it yet.
The drop-off is an opioid-based simulation where people would put the headset on and they would be in a space station. And then they would basically pick up 2 little pill bottles, and there would be pills coming at you, and there'd be music going on, and there's little fish tanks on either side, and one has fish that react to depressants, and the other one has fish that react to stimulants, and you use your little pill containers to scoop up the correct pills in order to save the little fishies, you know, because if you miss a pill, then the pill goes into the reactor that's behind you, and then it makes its way back into the fish tank. And as you miss pills, the water goes from a nice, you know, healthy, sort of greenish clear to whatever color the pill is. So blue for depressants and orange for stimulants. And then the fish start acting, you know, as if they're overdosing on depressants or stimulants, depending upon the fish tank. And so you're there, you're protecting the fish, and you're trying to scoop up all the pills. And then at the very end, if you've done well, then you drop off the pills into a drop-off box. So, you know, what you would do if you had prescription medication at home, you would drop them off at a drop-off location, so that they're not misused by anyone. But yeah, and if the little fishies unfortunately overdose, then you sort of like hear this alarm go off, and then everything fades to black, and then it comes back, and you're watching the space station you were on explode. You're outside the space station.
My God.
But yeah.
So you like it because it's very such a straightforward game. No.
No, I mean it's fun. It's rhythmic. It's, you know, you're moving, you're doing stuff. There's all this stuff.
Sounds like Maniac Mansion.
Which, not that we're not doing stuff like that in the other games, but
we got the opportunity to use metaphors again.
Yes.
And for opioid education. And
yeah.
Instead of just that straightforward, this happens, it's fish in space, as it should be. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Space fish, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because they're fish and they're fun.
So that was your favorite game?
Yes. Favorite game to develop and just to play.
Okay. To play it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like you're doing a lot. A whole lot. So glad to have you here. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. It's been really... Here and upstairs in iCube. Right. We couldn't do VR without you.
Yeah.
So.
Literally, you are the VR.
You are VR.
We are VR. You are VR. Thank you for joining us today. This podcast was produced by Noah Mears in partnership with the Tennessee Tech Communications Department.
We hope you're leaving this episode with a brighter view on what iCube is and what our amazing team does.
Until next time, stay safe.